Guys, welcome to Royal Fumblers. Blah, 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 blah.
There we go. I'm back.
Welcome to the Royal Fumblers. We're here. We're chilling. We're talking about football. That is
the foosball.
American football. He talks about the American football. We talk about American football conference. Guys, right now I got Statty McStatterson down here, and I have to my left, it's going to be Danny the Mouth. Look, the AFC is going to be interesting right now. We got the AFC North we're going to discuss, and we're going to start out with the Cleveland Browns. Danny, do you have any knowledge about the Cleveland Browns, to their draft and whatnot?
With their draft, they went ahead and were trying to build up the secondary a little bit more in the defensive line. But to me, their defense is good. Now, they had some games where they didn't look great, but that defense is coming together, and that defensive line is going to get you sacks. That's going to be fantasy relevant right there. And I can tell you right now, I love Landry since he's gotten there to Cleveland. He's got a great rapport with Baker Mayfield. I think they need to go ahead and let OBJ go just because he's been a cancer since he's been there.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. When it comes to Odell, we all know he's a superstar. He's a diva. The question is, can his ego be okay with getting 7 targets a game? Because we know that they like to run the ball. They're a run-heavy team. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, they've got 2 good backs they can pair together, and they were crushing it. And it actually helps Baker Mayfield be more accurate with the football if you're worried about running the ball, and he doesn't have to try to just win the game with his arm. So if Odell is okay with 7 targets a game, he's still even he's a little older. He's still going to be he's still a good wide receiver. The question is, will he gel with that?
No, he won't. And here's the thing is, Odell is not a good wide receiver. Odell had an amazing catch on prime time that got his name out there. And ever since then, he has been garbage. He's not productive. He's been counterproductive ever since that boat trip.
You can't deny the talent, man. Come on, his talent. He's a phenomenal athlete. He's not played with really great quarterbacks. I mean, he's fantasy relevant with Eli Manning.
Look, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say this real quick. Everybody in the NFL has talent. You wouldn't be in the NFL if you didn't have talent. The issue is whether or not whether someone can play with you. And if OBJ is too good for his quarterbacks, then either he needs to get to another quarterback, or you need to like there are other players that have played with terrible quarterbacks. Can you name one of them that played for the Chicago Bears? Anybody?
Robinson.
They exist. Great wide receivers can exist without a great quarterback. OBJ is about OBJ. He's not is he fantasy relevant? That's my question now. Simple question. Is he fantasy relevant?
No.
If where you can get him now as your wide receiver 3, I'll take a chance on him. What happens if it happens? What happens if it connects? If he comes back and Baker has relevance, I mean, you can take the chance. It's not going to hurt you too much if he's your wide receiver 3. I'll take the chance.
Where is he right now? Do you know his ADP? Any chance offhand?
No, his ADP, I think he's about in the 60 range somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. I know if I did
right around the Will Fuller range. The Will Fuller range,
yeah.
who's in Miami right now.
Sure, something like that.
He's in the 60s.
OBJ can potentially go off. The Detroit Lions can make it to the Super Bowl. The Jacksonville Jaguars could go 17-0. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, there's a possibility for anything. But the fact of the matter is, he is a cancer. He just all about himself. He wants to be the ball hog. oh, I'm this guy, I'm that guy. No, he is garbage is what he is. They have played better without him. They are about the run with Chubb and Hunt. And then on top of that, Baker Mayfield plays awesome under pressure. That's the only time he plays awesome. And the thing is, he plays awesome under pressure without OBJ.
So here's all right. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to ask a couple quick questions about this. So, it's in the 60s range, which Kareem Hunt is after. Would you rather have Kareem Hunt on your team or OBJ?
Hunt.
Yeah, I mean I'm going to go Hunt on that one. Yes, of course.
So if OBJ is in the 60s and Hunt is in the 60s and 70s, I'm going
Well, Hunt right now, Hunt is 58 and Odell is 62. You're right. Now you're talking about a wide receiver that's right near him. You're talking about it's like T. Higgins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Odell, DJ Chark, something like that.
And I would take all of those guys over OBJ.
All of them, I probably, except for DJ Chark, I'd take Odell over DJ.
I'm going to actually give DJ Chark only because he's got a new quarterback that he's probably the wide receiver one for that offense. I get what your point is, but I think that Chark has some sneaky high upside.
Sure.
That's another conversation. Let's talk about Chubb for just a second. Because we got to talk about the running game in general. All right, because this is my transition. Running game. Nick Chubb, where do you put him? Who do you draft before him? Because he has Hunt, he has value. It's a double value, but at the same time that hurts his value because it touches. So what do you do?
I mean,
I think Chubb is one of the best pure runners in the NFL.
Oh yeah,
sure.
And I mean, it's one of those things. Like if Hunt wasn't there, I would take Chubb up there with like Saquon, Ezekiel, CMC, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara. I'd put him up there in the top 6. But the thing is, because Hunt's there, he drops down not a whole lot, but just a couple more spots where other guys are going to be the main guys for their team, would move ahead of them.
I mean, I still look at, Nick Chubb, we've seen this production, what he can do, even with Kareem Hunt there. There's a high upside. I still think he's a top 10 in fantasy, even with Kareem Hunt there. If Kareem Hunt wasn't there, he'd possibly top 5. Like I personally have him ranked, I think 7 right now, the 7th best running back off the board. I'm still fluctuating because I'm still trying to find out about the whole Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers is going to affect Aaron Jones. So on my rankings, but right now I'd say Nick Chubb. I feel confidently he's right behind Zeke for me.
All right, so I'm going to give you a few names just to get a feel for Chubb, because Chubb's going to be one of the guys you're looking for in your first couple of rounds for sure. Okay, CMC is going to be ahead, right?
Sure.
Dalvin Cook's probably going to be ahead. Derrick Henry's going to be ahead. Alvin Kamara probably going to be ahead.
Yes.
Saquon,
he's ahead of Saquon. I mean, Saquon's ahead of him. Yes.
Jonathan Taylor.
That's where I start going. That's where I start going in between. Because I could.
Ezekiel Elliott.
I still say Zeke ahead.
Aaron Jones.
Chubbs is ahead of him.
That's if Aaron Rodgers is there, I might put Aaron Jones ahead.
No. Guys, give up. Rodgers is never playing another game.
We can only
give it up.
I might agree with you, but we have to go on what we know right now, and right now we don't know anything, which makes it hard. But
so the assumption
right now,
is that Aaron the assumption is Aaron Jones is going to be playing with Aaron Rodgers for now, because that's the expectation. Until we have proof otherwise, how do you treat that? You have to treat it that way. At this moment, is he going to play again? Danny, is he going to play again?
No,
not for that team.
Absolutely not. At least he's not going to play in Green Bay.
But you have to make the decision until the final decision happens. And do we see the writing? There's writing on the wall. It's there.
Sure.
You guys sound like 2 kids that are watching their parents getting a divorce and being in denial about the divorce. It's happening.
Well, either way, Aaron Jones, if that's the case, I would take.
But don't they love us anymore? Don't they love fantasy lovers? Don't they care about us? I thought we were important to them. You know what? I really
Yeah.
do believe that they need to have like a fantasy consultant in like the back office
In
of
the
that
war
football
rooms.
team. Yeah, absolutely.
In the war rooms where all of a sudden they're like, I think we're not gonna trade for Aaron Rodgers or like or anybody. Let's say Green Bay, they're like, I think we're just gonna go with whoever. And there would be a fantasy guy going, excuse me, can we get him another wide receiver, please? Like, can we
You need to get them a
can we
wide.
get
Yeah,
somebody?
just have just put Danny in the war room. Just let him like heckle everybody the entire time.
And I mean,
Okay.
I would do it for a reasonable price, only a couple $100,000 a year.
That's actually a very reasonable price, as long as I get 10% of it for not doing anything. All right, guys. And that's the short of it, guys. Look forward to talking to you again. Guys, so talking about the Cleveland Browns, let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh.
Ouch, was that a stab at the city of Cleveland? You know,
I mean, you can't hurt Cleveland any more than it's been hurt already.
Hey, I got a good transition. Speaking of one run heavy team to another run heavy team, let's talk about the Ravens.
Wow, Statty, you win for being nice. Danny, tell me about the Ravens this season.
Well, the Ravens have one of the best running backs in the NFL returning in Lamar Jackson. And
turning at the quarterback position.
It's one of those things, you know, Lamar has got to step it up. And at some point, the Ravens have to realize we cannot go to the Super Bowl playing a college school team offense to accommodate to Lamar Jackson. At some point, Lamar Jackson has to step up and be an NFL player. He's got to be able to say, hey, I can throw the ball and complete passes, you know, over 10 yards to make the team relevant and go deep into the playoffs. I mean, Lamar Jackson is going to get you points. He'll probably be a top 10 quarterback just because he can run the ball. He's going to get those running touchdowns. He's going to get the, 100 yards a game just running. But when it comes down to it, he's not a passing quarterback. When I think about their defense, it's nowhere compared to where it was when Ray Lewis was there. And, what was it, Reed, when he was there. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. I'm not sold on their defense. To me, there's no one else there that's really relevant. And even with the wide receivers they're bringing in this year, I don't think they're going to be a playoff contending team.
A playoff contending team. That's bold, but that's okay. Let me hear another point of view. Let me hear Statty's. Now, I have my own thoughts about Lamar Jackson and what is one of my favorite teams, but go ahead, Statty.
Well, I mean, listen, he's not wrong. Lamar Jackson is he's going to be a top 10 no matter what. I think we saw two extremes. The first season we saw how high his ceiling can be. Last season we saw, even when it wasn't as good, he's still a top 10 quarterback. So his rushing is always going to keep him in there. That's just the way he is. Hopefully he takes that extra step as a passer and they look better. And I think they try to give him some more weapons. I think they know that they are not good at passing the football. So they brought in Rashad Bateman. They drafted him. They brought in Sammy Watkins. I'm not saying that those are going to solve the problems, but I think they're attempting to address the issue. Fantasy relevance, moving to running backs. We saw J.K. Dobbins again. He was one of those guys that had some success at the end of the season once he got the full workload, and I think he's going to be a top 20 running back. I think I'd have him right outside the top 15, but that puts him in RB2 range.
So he's going to be like the Kareem Hunt to the version of Lamar Jackson being the Nick Chubb. So he's going to be the second best
pretty
running
much
back on the team.
That's a good thing. He's going to get his rushing touchdowns. I think he finished with over 10 touchdowns at the end of the season, and once they gave him the reins. So we know he's got talent. Maybe he feels more comfortable after having a complete year and a complete offseason to really get into it. But you'd like to see him get more passes out of the backfield for the PPR side of it. But I still think he's an RB2. You can easily have him as an RB2 to complement. If you've got somebody like CMC or even Alvin Kamara, too, I feel pretty comfortable with that.
All right. So here's my take. I'm going to start out. I'm going to start with I'm going to start with the fact that Lamar Jackson has much better weapons this upcoming season than he's had the entire time that he's been there. All right. Sure. So you start with Andrews, Bateman, Sammy Watkins, and Hollywood Brown. He actually has a receiving core all the way around. The reason I say that is this is an offense that can actually spread the ball for the first time since he's been there. They've never really tried to spread the ball before. This is going to state whether or not, under any question, I believe that Lamar Jackson has the ability to spread the ball. I believe that he has the ability to do that. Some people still doubt that. And this is going to be the season that decides, is he capable of being a real quarterback or not? And I think what's going to end up happening is that they will have a boost in Lamar Jackson's actual throws. They're going to do more airborne passes. Now, last season, I saw a lot of passes dropped. Say what you want about Lamar Jackson and his skill set. When you throw it in somebody's numbers and they drop the ball, that is not on the quarterback. All right. We can talk about Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews dropped a lot of balls in the end zone. Mm-hmm. And he could have, which was crushing to Mark Andrews owners in fantasy. Statty, can you affirm that for me?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like, you draft him thinking you might have a top 5, which actually his finish was still not bad as a tight end.
I think it was 7 is what it was.
I think he was 6 or 7. He finished good. It just wasn't what you were expecting. Like,
no,
you were
everybody thought that he was going to be this everything that he did. Mm-hmm. The previous season where they didn't think he could throw the long ball. He can throw the long ball. He just can't throw the short ball. He can't throw the ball. Like the pass over the middle he's had trouble with. The change-ups on defenses he's had trouble with. He definitely went through panic moments last season, which is not the sign of a high-end quarterback. And I definitely feel like all of his weaknesses were exploited last season. On the other hand, when he finally started getting going in about week 11, week 12, he looked like old school Lamar Jackson. Like, all he needed to do was take a number 2 in the middle of a game, in the middle of the fourth quarter, and he became his old player. So I believe in Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to be a quality quarterback for a less expensive price than he was last season. Do I think that?
No, I mean, he's still going to be top 10, but again, that's because of his rushing ability. But I think he's going to take a step backwards in the passing game, not just because of the offensive weapons. I mean, they got him weapons this year, but they also downgraded their offensive line. And, it's
one thing left tackle. That's a big deal. And that guy had a year left in his contract. What they did to trade for that is they basically got Bateman and a little bit of money and another pick for that. But they essentially got the that first round pick for Bateman. They picked up Bateman for that left tackle. But
they drafted
Here's what's going to end up happening is I think they're going to get a lot more pressure in the backfield on Jackson this year, any team that's playing them. And it's going to force Jackson to run even more. So he's going to get more rushing yards, but I don't think he's going to be able to set his feet in order to go ahead and pass the ball deep to these new wide receivers that he's got.
What they've done is and I'm sure you saw this, Danny, and I'm sure you saw this, Brady, is what was interesting in terms of the sets that defenses were running against him. They were designed to basically lock him into both sides. He can't go left, he can't go right. And defenses were able to do that because he only had 2 options. It was Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown. The only 2 guys that he even ever targeted, pretty much. They won't be able to do that anymore. So I am interested to see what happens with the Ravens after that. How they're going to respond to the changes that other teams made against them, because what they were doing on the running game was amazing. And I feel like Dobbins is going to have a huge impact on what happens with that too. I believe that Dobbins could be really, really good if they let him run the ball and not Jackson. But we're going to see what goes on. I'd still consider Andrews a top 6 tight end. I'd still consider Dobbins a top 20 running back. Their wide receivers, I wouldn't touch any of them.
No. Here's the thing is, like last year, a lot of defenses were, using their defensive linemen to put the pressure on, and then using their linebackers for containment. And because there was no other options as far as the passing game went for Baltimore, you could do that and play man on man or a zone against that secondary. But here it is now, even though they have the weapons, I think because of the offensive line issues, they're going to let the defenses are going to let their defensive line, their 4 down linemen, just have a heyday, go for it. And they're just going to use the middle linebacker as a spy. And the thing is, this will work against mobile quarterbacks. It's worked against Michael Vick. This is actually what brought Michael Vick down when he was playing in Atlanta. So, I mean, it's one of those things. That spy is going to start coming more into play for other defenses playing against Baltimore, and they're still going to go to that zone defensive coverage downfield with the secondary. To me, the passing game is still not going to be there. Lamar Jackson is going to be a top 10 quarterback because of his legs, not his arm.
So my question is, if we say top 10, let's talk about some quarterbacks real quick, because I feel like to finish this out, let's do that. Quarterback 1 is probably going to be your Patrick Mahomes, right? After that, what do you got?
Yes.
Josh Allen.
Okay. Where would you – Kyler Murray, would you do that before or after Lamar Jackson?
I would actually have him in front, because even though the 4'5" quarterback out of Arizona can't see over his offensive line, he does have the ability to get the ball to his receivers. He's proven that in the past, so I have him above Lamar Jackson.
All right, next. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Dak Prescott.
I have Dak above him.
Okay, Deshaun Watson.
That's tricky because
let's just avoid Deshaun Watson right now because of reasons. Fair. Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, you got to take Lamar above him.
Assuming Aaron Rodgers plays, but he's not going to play. But assuming that he did.
No, I'd still take Lamar above him.
I would take Aaron Rodgers above him just because, and that's if Aaron Rodgers plays, because he's got something to prove.
And I just think Aaron Rodgers is a strong Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I just don't think I just don't repeat what he did last season. He had a great MVP season. I don't think he's going to repeat. And then you've got the low floor with Lamar, who is probably going to do better than he did last season. So I would take the gamble on the guy getting the yards that I know he's going to get.
And I'm going to add one more, which is going to be Justin Herbert. At this point, you add Justin Herbert to this. Who would you rather have on your team?
Yeah, it's going to be Lamar again. Like I love Justin Herbert, but it's going to be Lamar. I just think that you know what you're getting with him. Now I think people know what the floor is, and they know what the ceiling is with him. So
I'm taking Justin. He has the weapons. He's proven he can be successful there. It's just they weren't winning because of their defense, and they played in a hard division on top of it. I mean, the Raiders, when they had to play the Raiders earlier in the season, and the Raiders looked good. We saw how good Kansas City was. It's hard to go into Mile High up into Denver to play the Broncos. So, I mean, they played in a very tough division. And then Justin Herbert looked great for a rookie. And now he's going into a sophomore season. having more weapons. I have a feeling that he'll actually outperform what he already did and will look better than Jackson.
We can hear you, Brady. Just an FYI, we can still hear you, so no worries. Even if you freeze a little bit on your video, we can still hear your voice, so don't worry about that, okay? Anyway.
Look at those ears.
They are, dude, look at that guy. Like he's ripped. Like that is a freaking, he looks like, man,
he's got a curl.
Arn Anderson is what he is right now.
He's got to curl at least 10 beers a night.
Oh my gosh. I curl at least 30. Unfortunately, they curl right into my belly. All right. So finishing up, like lock it down. I will. Lamar Jackson is still a fantasy relevant quarterback. He's a guy that you want to pick up. Is it a guy that you want to pick up before the 5th round?
It's one of those things. He
probably going to be worth it to you to pick him up before the 5th round because like that's the whole thing. Like,
no, I mean, if you don't get him before the 5th round, you're not getting him.
Yeah. So would you buy before the 5th round?
You would almost have to.
But would you? Would you as a player right now?
No. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I wouldn't, just because I would actually be after another quarterback that I know is going to outperform it.
All right. What about you, Brady? Would you get him before the 5th round or no? If you saw him available, just laying there as a personal player, would you grab him before the 5th round?
Depending on what you've already drafted, depending how your draft goes, I mean, if I need a quarterback, sure. If I really, I don't draft quarterbacks early, but
right. That's to me, that's an early time. To me, that's anything earlier than the 5th round seems like nutsoid.
I've changed my opinion on drafting quarterbacks early because it's kind of going that late round has messed me up in some seasons. So I'm more inclined to do it, but I'm still looking at maybe rounds like 6 or 7 at the earliest. But if you have a feeling that Lamar is going to be like have a huge year and that's your gut, then I say go get him. But you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna have to get him by the 5th round.
Gotcha.
I gotta say this: quite a few of my fantasy championships have been in 8 or 10 team leagues, and the biggest thing that helped me win a lot of those championships in those smaller leagues has been the quarterback aspect. This last year, I won 2, and I had Josh Allen. That made the difference. The year before, I had Lamar Jackson when he went off. The year before, year before it was more running backs, but that was a larger league. My very first fantasy championship was an 18 league. And with my first round draft pick, I took Peyton Manning when he went to Denver, and he had a Hall of Fame year that year. And that won me my very first fantasy championship. I think there's a lot of people that are underrating the quarterback value in fantasy, and they don't realize how much a quarterback can make or break your season, because quarterbacks are getting more points now than the running back or wide receiver positions.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is somebody that comes from a late round quarterback. I've changed my mind on it. I really have, just because it's not worked out for me at times. I wait till the 10th or 11th round and try to get my starting quarterback, and for 2 years in a row in certain leagues, it's just not worked out for me. And then I have to go trade to get one. So I'm changing my philosophy on how to get it, because I do think there's a positional advantage, especially in really 10 team leagues, maybe even 12, something that's a little shallower. And then of course the more depth you get, but it's really important to have that elite quarterback now.
Well, and here's the other thing. You get a starting quarterback that's really good outside of injuries, they're going to play every week. We're now seeing the NFL transition as far as the running back position, where a lot of teams are going to committees, or there'll be a couple weeks their main running back, that star doesn't get the ball as much. I mean, we've seen that with the Rams a couple years ago with Todd Gurley. They really didn't give him the ball the first half of the season. So, I mean, it's one of those things. To me, getting a high-end starting quarterback early in a draft has meant more than a running back.
So here's my take on quarterbacks, because I've been able to call the last couple of quarterbacks pretty early. I called Josh Allen having a blow up season. I called Lamar Jackson having a blow up season. Even more so than you guys. Now you guys don't know. Danny benefited from me calling those guys, but I was the one actually making the call. And what I'm going to say is this: it is of high value to notice the teams that are changing their offenses that are going to make it difficult for teams to prepare for them, because that is hugely important when picking up your quarterback. Look what happened with Jalen Hurts at the end of last season. I don't know that Jalen Hurts is that good. I think that Jalen Hurts is good enough, but the reason that he was valuable was because nobody expected him to be the running quarterback for 3 or 4 games. And so he had high value for a few weeks. Now, he was the running back that we talk about. Lamar. I think Lamar Jackson's definitely better than Jalen Hurts, just between me and you, like by a lot. But Jalen Hurts, they didn't expect it happening midseason, and so he did his job. He got some good fantasy points, maybe even made some people fantasy relevant in their playoffs last season. But if you can identify changes that are being made in the offense that are difficult to expect in advance, you will win your fantasy season more often than not, because the upside of a quarterback is so big that if you get one inexpensive, like Mahomes a few years ago, like Lamar Jackson, like Josh Allen, you can win a fantasy league faster than anything else. I don't know that we have that guy this season. Maybe Joe Burrow may be that guy this season, but I don't know. Right now, we're talking about the Ravens, and I do think that Lamar Jackson is going to be better. We got some mixed reviews on that. I would still not draft him before 50, because why would you draft a quarterback before 50 at this point? Even in a league, because right now I think we have a deep league for quarterbacks. It just would really suck if you pick the wrong one. Good luck. Yeah. As we were talking about the AFC North, we're talking about right now. We're going to talk about the Cincinatti Bengals, and the Bengals are an interesting team moving forward. Yeah, no offensive line. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's slightly improved from last year, but slightly is not enough to keep a guy's legs safe. So,
well, it's interesting because, like, I know they've got some guys that are supposed to be fully healthy, and I don't know. Like, I thought the offensive line was going to be improved last year, and we saw that not only did Joe Mixon get hurt, but Joe Burrow got hurt in a serious injury. So, and then here they are in the draft, and they have the 5th overall pick. They can draft Penei Sewell, who people have talked about is going to be this amazing offensive lineman that will protect your franchise quarterback. And they go with Jamar Chase. And I see both sides of it. And obviously they had to consult Joe Burrow about this. And I think Burrow was okay. And they did go offensive lineman the next pick in their 2nd pick. And then they drafted another one after that. I think probably in the 6th round or something. But it's very interesting. So they've decided they think their line, I guess, is good enough.
So let me ask you a question, Danny. Like, let's talk about this for a second. Danny, is your quarterback your on-field coach for the game? Should they have that input? Should they be able to decide this is the guy that I want?
Yes, they should have the input. And we've seen what happens when they don't have the input. A classic example would be the Green Bay Packers with the Aaron Rodgers situation right now. Did Joe Burrow have input on who they were going to pick up in the 1st round of the draft? Probably. Hey, I want my homeboy here, so I have someone to chit-chat and share a room with on road games. But Joe Burrow, I want to say this. Don't worry about that scar on your leg. Chicks dig scars, and by week 5, you'll probably have a matching one on the other leg.
Oh, that's badass. That's harsh. That's tough. And darn, Joe Burrow, the motorcycle maintenance guy. Like, I mean, so we got issues. So let's talk about this for a second. Let's really explore this shit for a minute, because Joe Burrow, I think he has top 10 potential. I think he actually has even better than top 10 potential this season. The problem is, again, you have his left tackle, which they drafted in the second round, right? They drafted a left tackle in the second round that was it's a better pass blocker than what they had before. All right. Penei Sewell was primarily a run blocker, even though the nod was that he was the left blocker for the chart that Herbert wanted it because he was a left blocker. But Penei Sewell was primarily a run blocker. That was where he could create that space. So I don't know that it was necessarily a bad move by the Bengals. He definitely doesn't have the talent or the in-locker ability that Penei Sewell does, at least according to reports. But at least they did the minimum that they needed to do.
Well, they were trying to make. I think they were trying to make Burrow happy. They got him the wide receiver that he wanted, and then they still draft offensive linemen to show that, hey, we're trying to protect you as well. But regardless, as long as Joe Burrow is healthy, which, listen, this could happen again. He could get hurt again if they don't protect him. But fantasy-wise, which is what we're talking about, I agree. I do think Joe Burrow has that top 10 potential. Right now, he's ranked as the 12th best quarterback. So even in a 12-team league, he would technically be a starting quarterback according to the rankings. I don't have him in my top 10, but you're definitely one of those guys that you can get if you want to go the late round strategy. You can pick him up late and possibly have a top 10 quarterback on your hands.
You could possibly have a top 10 quarterback for the first 5 or 6 weeks until he gets injured and is out for the rest of the season. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I've been saying this all off season, and no one wants to listen to me other than for the first time ever, the Detroit Lions. You need to take care of your kids first. You have to be able to protect your quarterback so he can throw. You need to create lanes for your running back. And all Cincinnati did was, hey, Burrow, who do you want us to get? Hey, I want my boy. I want my homeboy to come here and make the money with me. I want a Cheddar brother. Well, guess what? Cheddar brother is going to be still playing while you're sitting in the OR going in and having knee surgery on the other one.
Well, here's the thing. Do you think and
you need to
yes,
start taking shots when you all say, "Here's the thing," like for real.
Yeah,
like,
no, I know.
Like, every time that you all say, "Here's the thing," I need to take a shot so I can't make it to the end of the thing.
You won't be able to host.
Thing.
You won't be able to host if that happens, man.
But
legit,
it's arguable that I can do that anyway.
Is their offense better because
yes.
Jamar Chase is there?
Yes.
It is dude. There are some amazingly talented wide receivers on that offense now. Joe Burrow has a lot of targets. Just the question is, how long does he have to throw to them? And Joe Burrow doesn't have bad mechanics. Joe Burrow doesn't throw. It doesn't take a long time to throw the ball, and he has the ability to scramble a little bit. The issue is that he still holds on to the ball a little bit too long because he thinks that he can save the game if he just gets that extra yard or two. Quite frankly, he just needs to learn how to chuck the ball sometimes. That's just my opinion.
Sure. But, I mean, we saw how good he could be before he got injured, and that's the sad part. He did get injured. We saw it. We know that it's there. And then you also give him another weapon and a talent that is possibly going to be the new number one type wide receiver. That remains to be seen. I mean, he's got the talent. We'll see if he becomes that guy. But it's interesting. Like, I think there's a lot of fantasy value. Burrow, I think it's got value. Going into the wide receivers, it makes you curious. Like, what wide receiver, if you're in a draft, which wide receiver are you taking? Which one do you think has the best value for you to take?
In terms of fantasy, is what you're saying right now?
Yes.
I wouldn't take any of them. I don't trust any of them. I don't, because I don't know. I would probably I don't mind grabbing any of them, but it's like it was last season with Sterling Shepard versus Darius Slayton versus Golden Tate. They were about 10 picks away from each other in terms of ADP. I don't trust any of them because though I know that long-term dynasty-wise, I know who I'd pick. But short-term, I don't trust any three of them. I don't trust any of them to make me points. I trust them all as a flex.
Sure.
And if Joe Burrow comes out and he just crushes it, this is a high risk, high reward pickup for whoever goes through. If you want to pick up Joe Burrow at for like the 5th or 6th best quarterback, and you're just like, this is my guy, and he kills it, he could be the 5th or 6th best quarterback or better. He could also destroy your team.
Here's the thing with the wide receivers in Cincinnati, I'm not looking to draft any of them to be my 1 or my 2. I don't have a problem picking up any of them as a flex option, but at the same time, we really don't know who is going to be Burrow's go-to guy. And a lot of good quarterbacks have that go-to guy, and we've seen that with Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce is his go-to guy. And when Travis Kelce is not available, his next go-to guy is Tyreek Hill.
Those are his to-go guys. If he can throw the ball, he looks to Hill first. If Hill's not available, Kelce's always available.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when Tom Brady was in New England, Gronk was one of his go-to guys, and then it was Edelman or McCaffrey when he was there. So, I mean, it's one of those things. Quarterbacks tend to have a go-to guy, and the question is, who's going to be his to-go guy? And you don't know yet because we haven't seen a full season with him with that offense. And then you're adding an extra weapon on top of that. Are we going to see an LSU reunion that's going to make it better, or are we going to see him going someone else?
If you had to pick based on just where you could maybe get him in the draft, and I think you can get either one of these. I know you can get them all in by at least the 6th round, 6th pick or 7th pick. But if you had to choose one of the 3, which one do you think has either the most upside, or which one do you think is the best value? If you had to choose between the 3.
Absolutely. I like T. Higgins. I really do. Is he going to be the best guy? I don't think they want him to be now, but I believe that he will be.
I mean, I like Higgins a lot, but at the same time, if I'm at my 6th pick, I'm not touching those guys.
No, I wouldn't.
I mean, I'm not looking at those guys until round 9, 10, or 11, and that's possibly.
Hold on, I may have spoken too soon. Let me see where they've got him ranked here. So T. Higgins is the 26th best wide receiver off the board, and Tyler Boyd is the 33rd. So you're looking at probably maybe even beyond the 6th, probably maybe 7th round.
All right. So what about good old Cincinnati's number 1 draft pick, first draft pick? Where would you put him in this group?
If you want to go for Jamar, they have Jamar Chase as the 40th right now. So you're talking about 26, 33, and 40. They're all right there in that range. If you want to go upside, Jamar Chase is your guy because he could emerge as the number 1. Personally, in a PPR league, at where you can get him at maybe like he's your 3rd or 4th wide receiver, I'm okay with drafting Tyler Boyd. He's going to be the slot receiver. He's going to get those little short yard passes. He may not get the touchdowns that some of the other like T. Higgins and Chase will have, but you talk about a guy that's on your bench that you can fill in. I like Tyler Boyd. And I think he's the forgotten man in this thing because Chase has the what you think, and then you saw what T. Higgins did. I think
the
Boyd's
forgotten
the guy
man in this thing because I'm going to give you the forgotten man in this thing because you just forgot him. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Sample is the forgotten man in this thing.
Well, here's the thing. What's their tight end? See, Sample was their backup tight end, and he came in and played because Uzama. He is the starter. Uzama is their starter.
He's number 1 on their thing, but the thing is, Sample was drafted highly.
He could be.
He was designed to be. I think he's still a young tight end, but he's got good hands. Mm-hmm. He knows how to block. He's the guy that I think he's taking over that spot. He is the hidden, sneaky guy that's going to be forgotten in that offense because they are going to dump it off the tight end a lot. They're going to have to.
Interesting.
That's a thought. Keep an eye on.
Sure.
Now here's the other question. We haven't talked about Joe Mixon. And, Joe Mixon was hurt pretty much all last year, a complete disappointment in the fantasy world. And to me, his injury didn't seem like it was that major. I mean, I think most of the time he was out, it was turf toe. You miss almost an entire season for turf toe. Something doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. It was something. It wasn't turf toe. It was something that you wouldn't look at.
It was a strain and something else. I think they got to a point where they decided that the season was a wash.
Yeah. Especially when Burrow went down. When Burrow went down, they're just like, there's no point. We just paid him. We're going to protect our investment. And same thing happened to Christian McCaffrey. And I get it. You want to make sure you don't want to further injure a guy. The only upside with Joe. Go ahead, Dean.
Well, we're talking about CMC came back or was looking to come back with 2 or 3 weeks left in the season. That made sense to go ahead and sit CMC.
Right.
With Cincinnati, there was talks about Joe Mixon coming back week 12. You're talking about 5 to 6 games left in the season, and you kept him out. And to me, that's not protecting him for next year because we don't have a chance. It was one of those things. I mean, when you look at it, the Cleveland Browns made it to the playoffs with a 10-6 record. And when you have 6 games left, you honestly have a chance to catch that type of team. So you need to play him. And that's telling me they let Bernard go. So that tells me they're putting all their money in Mixon. But at the same time, I have a hard time believing Mixon's going to be that type of caliber running back. I mean, he has that potential. I mean, I just can't see him being an RB1, and I'm struggling to put him even at an RB2 just because of the lack of production.
I mean, he's going to be an RB2. I mean, the talent's just too good. And depending on what your definition of RB2 is. If you're talking about a 10-team league, he's top 20 or top 24.
I think when we talk, I think it's important that we decide that is a 10-team league. Right now, we're talking about generally 10-team leagues. We could do 12. I'm fine with that, but I'm talking about mostly 10-team leagues. When I say high-end RB2, I mean a guy that you could get, the 11th or 12th best running back in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. I do think Mixon, he's probably going to be. I still think he'll be a top 15. What is the upside? You're talking about upside. If he is, they've already announced he is the third down back. They're planning on having him out there. So his potential is possibly definitely top 10. I don't know if he reaches top 5, but we've also said this for a couple of years now. So I'm excited about Mixon. I think he could be really good. I'm also kind of I'm tempered my expectations with it. So I'm still going to say top 15 though.
I'm going to say this. He has pussyfooted it so many times in the last couple of years. I'm not touching him.
Here's what I'm going to say right now. And I believe this. All right. And I'll put $10 on it right now. Joe Mixon ends up a top 7 running back this league. And I'm telling you, here's the reason why. He's going to be a top 7 because when he's getting paid, 2, he's doing the work. 3, the reason that he's been pulled is because that Cincinnati has been trying to hold him back from that work. They've told him, no, don't go on. We're going to leave you on the injured reserve. We're going to let you stick around and do that but I think he's ready to go. He is ready for go time. He's going to be a top 7 guy. And because the fact is they're going to run all toward these run blockers that they've brought in. The funny thing is, as much as Burrow is the guy that they think that they're trying to preen and be the guy, I think Joe Mixon's going to eat up next season. I think he's going to be terrifying.
I really hope and appreciate that you spend the $10 on buying beer for us just because I'm not buying it. I am not drinking that Kool-Aid.
See, listen. I mean, I'm in between because I hear Danny say, he wouldn't even maybe draft him as an RB2, and I hear Andrew saying you're talking about if he gets in the top 7, he's an elite running back. I see the potential for both. Would I be surprised if he's a top 7? No. I think most people know I've been banging the Mixon drum for a couple of years now. If he finishes in the top 15, I do believe that's the floor though. Top 15, ceiling could be top 5. And I'm okay with taking the shot, especially if he's worst case scenario, he's an RB2. If not, he's your RB2 and he's giving you RB1 numbers.
So right now he's being drafted in some of the mock drafts that I've done. He's being drafted like 22 to 25, and sometimes a little better, sometimes a little lower. Danny, if you saw him at pick 20, and you needed another, like obviously pick 20, you're probably going to have 1, maybe 2 running backs if you're lucky. What are you doing? What are you going to pick? Would you pick up Mixon if he's laying there?
I really don't want to. I mean,
I really don't want to, but
and that's understandable. That is very understandable. Just like most people, your gut shot.
This is making you feel like in your gut uncomfortable. I get it. I understand the feeling. That's fair.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. Like I remember when Joe Mixon came in the league, which was the same year CMC came in the league, and I drafted Joe Mixon, and Michael Brady had drafted CMC, and Brady was very high on Mixon, and I was very high on CMC, and we traded them. We swapped them, and it's one of those things. To me, it's one of those things. The potential's always there for Mixon, but he hasn't delivered in any of his seasons since he's been in the NFL. And it's one of those things. If he's still on the board and I got 2 running backs already on my team, no, I'm not taking him. If I have 1 running back and 1 wide receiver or 1 quarterback, there's a possibility I might consider it to fill that slot, just because if I don't take him there's a good chance I'm not going to have a starting running back to put in that spot.
Can I throw some names at you?
Please do.
Yeah. All right. So here you go. Would you rather Joe Mixon or Antonio Gibson?
Mixon.
Yep.
I mean, I'd go Mixon. So I go Mixon. All right. Cam Akers or Joe Mixon?
Akers.
DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon.
This is where it gets weird.
I'm going Smith.
I'm going Mixon, but it's not that far.
There's Swift. I'm sorry.
All right, so you guys both said. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with either one of those. I would probably take Akers above him just for the upside.
Which is what
Swift. Swift is about the same. Like it's about, to me, they're very similar in that range. Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon or Miles Sanders?
Sanders. I think Sanders is being well under his ADP.
I did not expect that.
I think ADP is way lower than it should be.
And I'm not even a Sanders fan, and I would take him over Mixon.
Yep. You didn't expect that at all, did you?
Okay, interesting.
No, I think Sanders is, to me, a top 20. He's a quality running back. I hope he can stay healthy. That's all I gotta say.
All right, I think that's a pretty good estimate for certain people there.
It's my the thing is, and then what about you? Where are you on for that?
Where am I with Miles Sanders? You say?
Yeah.
I'd probably still take Mixon over him. To me, they're right in the same range. And if you're debating over somebody like that, just take the one that you feel more comfortable about. And see, between Mixon and Sanders, I'm more comfortable. I think Mixon has a better role to play. Just because Miles Sanders, it makes me nervous that they drafted Kenneth Gainwell, who is a pass catching running back. And I think they've lost some faith in Miles Sanders in the passing game. That's all.
Well, Sanders didn't hurt him in the passing. He hurt him in the fact that he wasn't playing the fucking game.
Well, he also dropped a lot of passes, which could have been Carson Wentz. That could have been just Carson Wentz not delivering the ball well.
Yeah. Carson does make me wince.
Mm-hmm.
That is a literary thing. All right, let's move on. Guys, we've talked about the Bengals enough. I actually feel like the Bengals are going to step it up, at least in terms of fantasy. I think they're still going to be freaking terrible. They may score 30 points a game. They'll just get 40 points scored on them. That's my take. We'll see you in a bit. All right. Well, this is one that I expected to do with Drunk Jimmy. But you know what?
Jimmy, where you let us down, bro. Where you at?
Don't worry,
what we're gonna
Jimmy.
do
I got you.
is that
I know enough about the Steelers. I got you.
All right. So what we're gonna do is Brady is gonna be me, and I'm gonna be Drunk Jimmy today.
Oh, okay.
And so right now, I'm just gonna let you know that as we discussed this division, Jimmy, I got to do you proud. So,
all right, hold on. I got to get in frame of mind here. Hold on. I gotta go off screen for just a second and get into character here.
You even get the matching man boobies.
All right. Oh, look at oh man. There's Jimmy. All right. So we're discussing the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Jimmy, what do you got to say about it?
Well, first of all, I'm just going to let you guys know, Chase Claypool, running back one, even though he's a wide receiver. And when I say that he's a running back one, I'm going to tell you that they're going to switch him. You're like Najee Harris. He's going to throw the ball. Ben Roethlisberger is going to be the backup quarterback. But here's the deal. He's also going to be the punter and the kicker. When he's the punter and the kicker, they're going to show a different level of game. All right. Different level. It's
interesting.
Crazy how good our team is. We don't need an offensive line. We have the steel curtain of defense averageness. We got this.
Wow. That's interesting. Well, yeah, I don't even know where to go after that.
You don't.
I know where,
because that's what they're gonna do to you.
I know where we're going with this, and I'm going to lay down some facts and what's actually going to happen this year with those Steelers. One, Big Ben, if he does make it through the entire season,
and he will,
injured, he is going to have the worst season of his career.
No, he won't.
This will be his last season in Pittsburgh.
You are
now
wrong.
We get to Claypool. Claypool is the new OBJ. He is like the child of OBJ.
Better than OBJ.
Brown. And here it is. He's ran his mouth so much that the Steelers organization is going to tell him shut his mouth or pack his bags.
Pack his bags.
Juju is so overrated and is going to be mediocre again and not deliver.
Homebrew Juju.
The only quality wide receiver they're going to have is going to be Washington, who's going to be at best a flex option. Najee Harris.
He'll flex on you.
The only thing Najee Harris is going to deliver on is the pizzas to the homeless shelter because he is not that great of a running back.
RB1.
Then that defense.
Jimmy, are you going to be taking him with the number one draft pick?
Yeah.
In our league, Jimmy, you have the number one draft pick. Are you taking Najee Harris?
Every league.
And I'm going to tell you right now, Jimmy, you're going to be in the
every league,
bottom 4 again in the keeper league. This trophy is going to stay with me because you do not know how to draft.
You're wrong.
I'm going to say this right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers will miss the playoffs, and the fans are going to use their terrible towels to wipe away their tears because it's going to be that horrible of a season.
The towels will be the steel curtain. We'll waft shame upon all of our opponents. Rah!
And you better have enjoyed last year when you guys choked in the playoffs because of the simple fact your payroll is not going to be able to keep anyone halfway decent there in Pittsburgh. And
everyone wants to play for free.
You're going to try to have to find a new quarterback for next year because Dobbs isn't going to cut it. Mason Rudolph ain't going to cut it.
Who's named Duck?
Big Ben will either be one, retired, or sitting in a jail cell for statutory rape.
Every day. Okay.
Oh wow! All right, so I don't know. I think we got it all. I think we're good.
No, sorry. I need to find Andrew. I need to find Andrew here. Blah blah blah. He's going to change his shirt. He's going to be a different human being. You have anything to say about that, Statty?
I didn't see any clouds of smoke around you, Jimmy. Like
edibles.
Oh, gotcha.
Edibles are delicious.
Look, I'm going to tell you, the only person that's going to be relevant for fantasy sports from the Pittsburgh Steelers is going to be their kicker in Boswell. They are going to be a joke. They'll be lucky if they win 5 games this year.
Well, we're not talking about real football. We're talking about fantasy. And in fantasy, I think Najee Harris, their number one, their first round draft pick. We've seen what they can do. Yes, the offensive line is not that good, but I do think Najee Harris he will finish as a top 15 back this season in fantasy football.
No,
go ahead and say it.
No. Okay, so here's the deal. This is the Andrew version of me.
Sure.
Because obviously, thank you for joining us, Drunk Jimmy. I know that it was difficult for you to make it above your online gaming. But what I have to say about Najee Harris is this. Najee is going to be a very quality RB1 on any team because he's a 3-down back. He's going to have a 3-down back. He's going to get 30 touches a game. He's got a good build. He can catch the short passes from Big Ben, who can't throw the ball upfield anymore. Najee's going to be great. All right. I would put Najee above Cam Akers right now. And I know that that's a big fucking hot take. But that's what I believe.
I don't doubt you.
Freaking kidding me? I mean, really?
What? Because I don't think that Big Ben has the arm right now to do anything else. I think the snap in his arm is freaking gone. He's just going to dump it and dump it and dump it. And this guy's going to freaking almost die. And at week 13, he's going to get injured, but he's going to be like the running back 3 at that point.
And listen, history has shown a rookie running back. There's been at least 2 rookie running backs that have finished in the top 15 for the last 3 or 4 years. I think Najee, it's a weak class, the running back class this season. Najee is going to be it. Travis Etienne, maybe if he overtakes James Robinson, but
and the number 3 being, if you're going to do it,
Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is the only other guy.
Michael Carter will be quality too.
Well, look, okay. I'm going to tell you right now.
Carter.
No. The only reason a rookie running back has been in the top 15 for the last few years is because a lot of NFL teams are going to a committee system or a major back has been injured. Don't give me
You're
that.
right.
No,
You're absolutely right. But here's what's going on in this situation. Again, you're talking about a Steelers offense that likes to run the ball with a guy that they have no backup. They have no backup, Danny. And they don't have a backup on the Jets either. Yeah. That's why Carter's going to be a big, the Jets are terrible. So what are they going to do? They're going to give it to a 4th-round player, and that's going to be their guy, like Robinson was last year.
But this is how bad the Steelers are going to be. This is an over-exaggeration of 5 wins. And what happens when you're losing?
We're not talking about real football. We're talking about fantasy.
Real football players. Real football. You can't play fantasy without real football.
we've done this before. It doesn't matter how many wins they get. It's about fans. James Robinson was a top 4, and they won 1 game last year. 1 game.
Look, here's the thing. When it comes down to the Steelers, if they are behind, they cannot freaking run the ball. And if they're behind, little dump passes to a running back is not going to bring you back into a game.
So
I'm just saying,
becomes irrelevant.
So football.
I guess history with James Robinson just doesn't mean shit anymore. I mean,
can the Pittsburgh Steelers play defense still?
Yes,
but not
they can.
To a top 10 defense. And to answer your question, Brady, yeah, Jacksonville had a top 5 running back because they were playing for that number 1 draft pick. They didn't care about winning. Get the ball, waste the clock, get the L, go to the draft.
It wasn't even that. He was getting PPR points. He was getting pass. He was the entire offense for them. I mean, he had fantasy relevance.
To lose. Pittsburgh's not going to be playing to lose. Even though they're not going to win, they're not playing to lose. That franchise has too much pride to play to lose.
Yeah, and they're gonna, and then with the defense, is gonna keep them in games.
Oh
gosh.
I believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers will not make the playoffs this season, but Najee
I agree.
Will be a top 8 running back.
I agree. Moving on.
Their fantasy value is going to be never going to be higher because Juju is going to catch, at least wide receiver 4 value.
Listen, you guys were off on you don't want any of the Cincinnati Bengals wide receivers. I get it. I really don't know if I really want anything here because I do think they are going to go more run heavy. So I don't really necessarily want any of the Steelers. I'm not, if you're going to go upside, you can go Claypool, but even then you're talking about your wide receiver 4, and I'm not interested. I'm just not big there.
I mean, let's go through the AFC North, and I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not interested in the wide receivers in the AFC North. Not to say there's going to be no passing game, but I'm not impressed by the AFC North. Ready? For wide receiver purposes at this time. Doesn't mean I don't believe the quarterbacks can't do anything. I just believe that their leg game is more important in this situation. All right, we got the Baltimore Ravens. How many wide receivers do you trust on on the Ravens right now?
0.
Next. Cincinnati Bengals, how many wide receivers do you trust to win you a championship?
I'll take a shot on some of them, but that's it. That's like a shot.
Taking a shot is not the same as actually thinking they're going to do anything for you. Ready? The Cleveland Browns.
Landry
is reasonable.
Yeah.
As a wide receiver, 1, 2, or flex.
2 or flex.
He's a wide receiver 3.
Heard. All right, next. Pittsburgh Steelers.
No one.
I mean,
they have
Deontay Johnson.
All 4 of these teams have talent on the wide receiving end.
Sure.
Which one will win you a game?
If it's going to be anybody, I'm going Deontay Johnson. I think he's the guy that Ben likes to pepper with targets. So if anybody's going to get it, it's going to be him possibly.
And that's about it, right? So here we go. Is there a tight end or a kicker or a punter on the Steelers that we're not sure of that is going to do anything for them?
Wait.
Well, I mean, even Boswell.
Kicker, punter, or tight end.
Boswell.
I mean, Eric Ebron's their tight end.
He's fine.
Yeah, I mean, if you're throwing, so he's the 24th best over on this. I mean, if you're throwing a shot in the dark, I mean, he's always going to be on the goal line, so he might get you a touchdown or something, but it's not anything I'm really that interested in. It's a deep one, but
yeah,
I can see picking up the punter, and I mean, this is how sad it is for the Steelers. I don't even know their punter's name, but he's going to get a lot of work this year.
So here's my thought. I actually really like Najee. And in terms of, I believe that Big Ben has a lot of talented receivers. I just don't know that that's going to translate to big offensive weapons for that. I think he's going to be on his back a lot. I think he might even get hurt quickly. So I have worries about Pittsburgh, but I do believe that Najee is going to have. I think he's got the grit. I think he's got the power to make weird things happen. In the same way that
if Big Ben goes down, that just it makes a better case for Najee to be better. I mean,
I think that they drafted him because they're like, it's the cheapest way to make our offense at least somewhat viable for the next year. Because I think they're going to try and make one more move and they're done. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Steelers this season, but they were really dominant for the first 12 games last season. Like at some point we thought the Steelers could go. Am I right? Like people were talking about the Steelers going.
Yeah, everyone was talking about it. And then the Steelers showed their age and their lack of discipline with the team. Claypool running his mouth, Juju not, living up to the hype. Big Ben's arm going out. No running game. I mean, it was one of those things. The only thing that really carried them was their defense. And the thing is, I don't even think their defense is going to be that great this year.
But their defense is well coached, and that regardless of what you do, if your defense is well coached and they're organized and they're disciplined, that can take you through a lot of problems. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
I totally agree with that. But at the same time, the organization is losing discipline because when Claypool's out there running his mouth, especially even after losing a playoff game to the Browns, there's no discipline. Mike Thompson has let his team go. He's losing control over it. And I mean, it's sad. I have a lot of respect for the man. He is a great coach in the NFL. But something's going on where he's losing that locker room. He kept people like Bell and Antonio Brown contained. Look what happened with those two after they left Pittsburgh. But Claypool's coming in there as a rookie and just doing whatever he thinks he can do with no repercussions.
It was funny because, Villanueva, one of their offensive linemen who's been with the Steelers forever, has now signed with the Ravens. And one of the quotes he actually said recently was, "It's good to be on a team that's focused on winning, not just TikToks, not just that kind of it was a clear shot at Juju, at people like that. So, and also an in-division rival that he chose to leave to go to. I think that was very interesting.
I mean, the Steelers are a mess. And, I mean, this is a little spark that's gone into a dumpster. And by the end of this year, that dumpster is going to be full of fire, and it's going to spread and burn down all of Pittsburgh because it is such a mess.
All right. You know what? Let's do this. We haven't done this with any of the teams right now. I've not talked about predictions of win-losses. The season is how long now?
17 games.
17 games.
All right. Give me a win-loss on the 17 games for the Steelers, and then we're going to move on.
5-12.
I'm gonna go 8-9.
I'm gonna go 9. I'm gonna go 10-7. Because I believe that the Najee is a great mandate. I believe that here's the reason I'm saying this. Give me a second. Go ahead and go with this argument. You ready? The reason they picked a running back in the first round, which is just bonkers to do, is you just don't do that. You do that because you're trying to say, hey, look, my offensive line isn't great. What can I do to improve my offensive line a little bit is improve the value of my running back, my running game, and the power that's going on there. I think it's a gimmick that's going to win them a few games. Not going to win them all.
Not to mention the defense.
Not to mention the defense. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm saying 10-7. Do I think that they're going to be viable postseason? Absolutely not. It's a gimmick team, and that's tough to say about the Steelers. Jimmy, sorry about that. I wish you could prove me wrong, but you didn't show up today. F you. Love you, man.
I'm going to tell you right now that proves your point wrong, Andrew.
You can end the video now if you want
Back
to.
in the 90s,
The
Rams
thing
had Jerome Bettis. The Rams had Jerome Bettis, and everyone's like, didn't want to touch him. Rams had such a horrible offensive line. Jerome Bettis couldn't do nothing. And then he goes to Pittsburgh, who had an offensive line, starts putting Hall of Fame numbers up, wins a Super Bowl. That proves my point. I don't care if your offensive line's bad. I don't care how talented of a running back you are. You're not going to be anything.
I don't even know what that means. Thanks for joining the Royal Fumblers. Like and subscribe down below. Leave a comment, bro.
All right, just cut it.